Rocco. Dr. Jack, how are you? You are interesting in how you are a connector. Is that the Pittsburgh thing? You and I, we know how to connect people.
Yeah, maybe it's me trying to find myself. I'm not sure where I'm going to find myself. I'm going to find myself in a daisy or in a pile of crap. It's hard for me to know, but I'm always looking for myself and I'm looking for people that share those common mindsets. And this guy right here, Rick of the Warrior Mindset, um, really struck me as a guy who speaks his mind. He doesn't apologize. He gets to the point and yeah, I said doesn't apologize. One of our big quotes in Temple Orthopedics, where I trained 5 years, we had three rules of orthopedics: never explain, never complain, never blame. Like I said, if there's something you can do about it, you're not pointing fingers. You're looking inward first. What could I have done different? Don't go blaming the nurses. Don't go blaming the patient. You foresee these things, and an ultimate man foresees the bumps in the road before they get there. And this guy seems to have a great program, a great um, a following. I don't even what I'm going to let him introduce himself and let him tell about his group. But it's something that really jumped out at me. I reached out to him. He was willing to give us the opportunity, so I'm going to let him speak. So thank you, Rick, and welcome to the Ultimate Men's Movement.
Yeah, appreciate you, Doc. Thank you so much. Yeah, my name's Rick Yee, creator of the Warriors Way mindset. I also I'm writing multiple books right now, which will be reshaping psychology in multiple ways. If you guys want to go real deep on stuff, just know that I'm one of the ones you do not have to pull your punches with. So go as hard as you guys like with whatever questions you have. And yeah, we have the men's group is growing extremely fast. We do have a women's area too to try to help our ladies adapt to how quickly the guys are evolving into their authenticity and leadership. But yeah, we cut directly through the bullshit of what today's teachings are to make it so that we move forward and we make it so that people can actually start getting absolutely the best evolution of the strongest help that they can get to become the best version of themselves. So this goes extremely deep. And so you guys can go as hard as you want, ask me any questions you want, and I'll give you
I'm gonna
real
let
answers.
Dr. Jack just hit it. Go.
Yeah,
I'll
no, I
do the
mean,
follow, Mr. I'll be Mr. Follow up. Good.
yeah, no, Rick, like I mean, it's hard, like in the myriad of problems and issues that men face on a day-to-day best basis. Where would we're doing a quick interview here. What's cut to the chase? What is men's biggest problem right now?
If you really want to start fixing a lot of things, we have to redefine the way that we grieve. And this is the biggest issue that guys have is most people, if you look at most diagnosis, and I've cracked through, I've helped people, I've now done 40 case studies of people who are in severe depression or suicidal thoughts or apathy, and in 1 to 3 hours are completely out of depression. I figured out the core pieces, and one of them happens to be in learning how to redefine grieving. And most people live in denial because they can't face the pain from a past event or a trauma or whatever you would call it. If you learn how to redefine grief, which I have a completely different system for grieving than the most that you would see, that grief is actually growth. And I teach people how to train grief. It's a skill, and so there's only two kinds of people in this world. You're either trained or you're untrained. You either know how to do it or you don't know how to do it. And so if it's a skill that can be learned, then we teach people how to do it. Once you learn how to grieve effectively, depression, rage issues, bipolar disorder, addiction, you start going anxiety, you start going down the list of PTSD. I've gone down the list of all these things where once you learn how to effectively do this, you no longer need to keep coming to me for every grief you have to go through because you know how to do it effectively. This means good psychology doesn't create dependency. So that means if I teach you how to do it, you don't need me anymore.
Right.
I mean,
Now
if
that brings up, a lot of good, interesting points. And, we all use different words for different things, but then there's interconnecting concepts that are connected to these words. And, a lot of my entry into the men's mental health field came through my workings with adoptees. I wrote a book on adoption, and there's all sorts of issues with adoptees. And, one of the reasons for focusing on men is because the same thing happens in that community, in the adoptee community. Um, 90% of the influencers, the people online are women. And there's a spattering of, 10% men. And, all this talk of trauma, the birth trauma, the separation trauma, all these trauma things that people lean on as, almost a crutch. Like, well, I've had trauma, so therefore I'm going to be anxious. But then I was on a podcast with a guy from England, and it came to me. I was with my son, and my son's a wrestler. He's, always top rank in the state. Great job he's doing. But the idea of training versus trauma, that training is traumatic. So that I was in the service. I played football, fraternity, all these, these men's clubs and this men mindset is some form of training, which involves some physical, mental stress, strain, which could easily be looked at as trauma. And I wrote an article for Psychology Today once where I was talking about this guy who was an Iwo Jima vet. And he had the biggest heart, the biggest mindset. Um, and I asked him how he hurt his knee. And he goes, well, I stole more bases in Altoona, Pennsylvania in 1940, 39 than anyone else. And then he's telling me about his knee. And I'm like, dude, you spent a month on Iwo Jima and you still think that your knee pain is from running bases in high school. You know, he wasn't a victim. He still, at 90 years old, he still wasn't a victim of Iwo Jima. That was his pride. He loved Iwo Jima. Iwo Jima made him who he was. That was his training. So the idea of, I think it's a mindset thing. Like what you're going through, is it trauma or training? How would you address that? Because it's along with the same things that you're talking about.
Let's add a couple pieces here because the 90% women thing to the 10% men thing. Opinions, guys. Can men play women cards and it be effective?
I would say no.
No.
Weak men tend to not get love. And I can go through this deeply if you guys want to. When you see, look at bully behavior, for example, when a boy picks his target for bullying, what is the most likely, like, this is the most likely reason that kid got picked for bullying? What is the most likely reason? When a boy
He was
bullies a
told
boy,
on. He was tattled on.
well, maybe not. Like, why would
Self-esteem, self-esteem,
there's an esteem thing, so a weakness element, right?
weakness. Yeah.
Usually, when you look at how bullies, like male bullies, choose who they bully, it's usually the weakest. Weakness draws attention, and there's something inside. And I did an example just the other day. I had a guy in here, and I showed him like, look at the behavior. If, for example, both of you, if you had your wife or your girl, was to come in and go, "Hun, I'm having a tough day. Can you just hold me and keep me safe today?" What would you guys do?
Do it.
You'd be happy to, right? It wouldn't
Yeah.
bother you. Of course, babe, come here.
Yeah.
I got you. I'll keep you safe. I'm happy to, right? I said, watch this, guys. I went to my girl and I said, baby, I'm having a tough day. Hold me and keep me safe. And everyone in the room was like, I'm uncomfortable. I don't like that. Because there's something inside of males that when we act like bitches, we want to beat the bitch out of a dude. We want to. Like, I think it's a biological element here where I can't trust a weak man. And I think there's a reason why. If you look at how bullies choose their victims, if you will, who do they choose? They choose the weakest male. What happens when the weakest male stands up for himself?
He becomes the topper male. He
Well, not maybe
increases
not
the rank.
necessarily, because the bully
But
will usually just do what?
Beat the hell out of
right
them.
I don't, maybe you, Neil, but I'm just saying, I'm just saying, no. If a kid stands up for himself against his bully, the bully will either stop picking on the kid or they become friends.
Well, I guess I was wrong about beat the hell out of. It depends if they're a weak guy. I was thinking weak, but you're right.
No, as soon as the kid who's being bullied starts standing up for himself and fights back, then they stop picking on him.
Hmm.
And I guess that's what I was saying. Like he increases ranks in he gains some street cred maybe. Like I said,
Just well, a
Right.
little bit. There's a
yeah,
reason why this is important. I do believe our biology is still wired for protect the village. I
Yeah.
still believe that there's still an element of if I can't trust you to stand up for yourself, how the hell could you ever protect, my family or have my back or be somebody who I know I could depend on or somebody who I know would stand up for the right
Right.
thing and wouldn't just buckle because they're scared today, right?
Now, Dr. Jack, I got to jump on this and we can keep this longer because this is just definitely therapy for me in a way. Here's when you go through a really tough situation, like a separation, divorce that's very traumatic, very hard, very challenging, and you become weak, Rick, where you're not used to showing these emotions. You're not used to crying all the time. You're not used to being angry all the time. And you just don't know how to deal with it.
This is grieving.
You go through a time where you really have become weak. And is that the right thing for a man to do?
It's
Is
an
that
interesting
the
thing. I want to make sure that we're clear because the way that you're defining weakness, and I want to make sure that I'm on the same page with you, because going through grief isn't weakness, but maybe the way that it's handled can be perceived as weakness. So I want to make sure that I'm understanding clearly before we go too far in. Like, because going through sadness is not a weak thing to do. And feeling the feelings that you have around anger is teaching you things also that are morally important to you and things that you take accountability for and value. So that's also important too. Going through emotion is not weakness. So I want to make sure if that is considered weakness by you, that our definition is at least on the same page. So I don't go too far down a road. I don't know where we're going.
No, I don't think it's weakness, but when you do go to that route, you really go a wrong corner. And I think that's where men get the suicide and different things. They've never felt that kind of pain. They've never dealt with grief like that. And they are not able to deal with it. And then when they try to deal with it in a way that humanly we should deal with, it comes back to backfire people around us. We show a sign of weakness to a level that we don't know. And we
Help me
don't
with
know.
that.
And then we kind of peer
What's
back based on who we're around.
what's your opinion of how we should deal with it? So again, like I just want to make sure the terminology, you and I are like on the same page. How we should deal with it is seen as weakness. I want to know what you mean
Is
by
it
that.
weakness or is it vulnerability?
I just want to make sure with Neil first. Like,
Yeah.
what do you mean by when he should deal with it?
What I've seen.
What, please. I
What?
actually
No,
want
I get
what
no.
your
Definitely,
clear
this is
scene.
such a great point. What I've seen is when the way we, so this is where I do see it as a sign of weakness and how we do it because we overdo it,
Okay,
and
explain.
then we peer back.
I want to hear what you mean.
Around women, and this is, and I might get in trouble for this.
You won't get in trouble.
And we show this pain, we show this suffering, we show this real sign of us, and we overdo it. We end up in a way getting weaker, losing some of our masculinity, and it's hard for us to come back from it. And then if we're around the wrong people and get gaslit based on it, then we are more afraid to show our emotions, and that's where I'm seeing lots of signs.
Okay. So if I'm going to try and repeat back from how I heard it, if you're grieving to your women who are unhealthy and don't understand it either, then you'll be gaslit and you'll be treated weaker or less than because the way you're grieving is expecting your women to what, save you or be empathetic to you is what's the
Yes,
goal?
it's not empathy. That's a good point, Rick. What is the right way? Because we're trained in so many ways as men, not to show those signs of emotion as a
Right.
sign of weakness, Rick.
And these are
And
judgments though. And so this is where I'm very happy to hear your opinion because these are judgments that are being called commonalities. And this is where like a trained or untrained like connection would have to be made. Like, is it weakness or are you doing something that is provoking? Because there's a safety security element to humans that we have to also address.
A lot of this is in the field what we call regenerative medicine. So it's like sexual.
Usually it used to be
so
in control.
absolutely. So,
Mean people.
and this is a perfect timing that we can continue to talk about this, Rick. But yeah, I mean, I really see it in my heart, soul, and mind, man, that this is a powerful pain
Yes.
that I dealt with and
Yes.
how I handled things now. I feel that being an only child, dealing with a mother that I probably always turned to in ways that I shouldn't turn, that I tried to show this, that showed my sign of weakness, to then being afraid to show weakness at times later after seeing the result. I look at the antecedent consequence and reward in everything I do.
Mhm.
And when I saw that's the result I got, I'm not going to go back to that result again.
Correct. And this is because I can see how was your relationship with dad, just so I can see what that was.
I
Because
had
if
a
you
great
kept going,
relationship with my father and my
then why
mother,
did you
I would
keep
say.
going to mom?
He's passed away, but
No, 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 but like when you were young, you said my relationship with my dad was great, but anytime I needed something, I went to mom. Why?
I guess because my father had a sign of being a super, he was brilliant. And I didn't think to go to a father for things like that.
Now that's probably where you got goofed up because you started expecting a mother's empathy whenever you had to go through something hard, right? And so then when you're in a relationship and go through something that's a massive loss, it could be a death in the family, a loss of your career, a injury, it could be anything that knocks you off your game. And then now you're going, well, the woman that I'm with should also be giving me a mother's empathy when I'm down, right?
Yes.
Now that's where it goes off the rails, is because partners don't want dependence. And so as soon as you go from protector to dependent, women don't want to sleep with children. And as soon as you went from that's my protector, that's my leader, that's my guy, to that's a dependent or a childlike behavior, it's going to be very difficult to want to do intimacy with somebody who's acting more like a child than a partner or a protector.
Mm,
And that's where it got
interesting.
off the rails is we can't have expectation to get empathy from a woman when you are the leader. And this is an interesting talk about this is because if you look at just leadership period, do leaders get empathy?
No.
No, leaders don't. And there's a lot of teachers who go out there and show if I did 15 problems right and one wrong, everyone starts laughing when you do one wrong. And you're like, why am I getting no accolades for the 15 right? You see what I mean? You guys could be the best bosses in the world, but miss that person's paycheck for a couple weeks, and you'll watch them be like, you're the worst boss in the world. You're like, I've been great to you 10,000 times, but this one thing is goofed up, and now I'm a piece of shit.
Yep.
This
And
is where
that's the
you're
difference between
watching.
an employee and someone who owns a business.
Now you're getting it. So this is where I'm saying is there's a biological element built into us, both in the Boldy system and in the support system, that if you completely bypass this and think we're going to outsmart the system, it blows up in your face. And so there's an element of what happens even to our babe, where when we become a bitch, if you will, because if you look at the word by itself, if I were to say, hey, that guy's being a bitch, what would the words that you guys think I mean would come to your mind? What are words that you think of?
Wuss, wimpy,
Wuss, wimpy, weak,
whiny.
pathetic, whiny,
Every,
something like that, right? Like not strong, right? But if
mhm.
I said that girl's being a bitch, what would you think?
He better dial back on his language.
No, no, well, that's
Or,
funny.
you
That's
know,
funny. You control
or
language.
rude and aggressive.
She's aggressive and mean, and she's going to
Yeah.
be, it's going to be harsh. It's going to be cruel. There's going to be like, she's being a bitch is a mean thing. Isn't it funny? Same word. I did no influence. But if a man's a bitch, it's weak. And if a woman's a bitch, it's mean. Same word though, right? And what happens is when the man starts to become a bitch, he starts being weak in the home, she starts getting meaner because she's not safe anymore. You're not doing any of the things to make it so that's my partner, my reliability partner. When you start becoming a dependent on her, it becomes an issue. The solution to this is actually a lot simpler than you guys might think. Men need men.
That's it.
Men always have. Why do you
Yeah,
think
I
we
agree with
work
that.
on the car in the garage or go shoot basketball or go hiking together or have to go hang with your boys? Why do we have to do this? Because leaders don't get empathy except for from other leaders. And so men don't get empathy from women because biologically speaking, we need to go, that's the leader, or else men would naturally get empathy from women, but they don't. I've done hundreds and hundreds of people's surveys, and the guys are like, I don't get empathy. I'll get well-being, but not
But if
empathy.
a man doesn't show empathy towards a woman, they're in trouble. But I get.
Look at you. You said it. You Freuded it out right there. In trouble? You're going to be in trouble? You're a grown-ass man. How do you get in trouble? You
Good
don't get
point, Rick.
in
Great
trouble.
point.
You can't be in trouble. It's a disagreement. But if a man doesn't show empathy for a woman, now pay attention to what you just caught because you are correct. Do men show empathy for women's feelings?
Not always.
No.
Well, I didn't say always, and nothing's always. But
Yeah.
do men, for the most part, care about the well-being of the women's feelings?
Care about their well-being, absolutely.
But I mean, like, hey, she's got feelings. Do you acknowledge your
Yeah,
wife's feelings?
absolutely.
Right. And this is where most guys are like, yeah, her feelings are important to me. I do worry about her feelings. I'm like, do you feel like your feelings matter as much to her?
Not at all.
And it's not even close. It's very rare that the guys are like, she asked me, how's your heart doing today, hon? How's your feelings today? This is a question when I ask my guys, I'm like, Neil, how's your heart today? And my guys are like, I don't know how to answer that. No one's asked me that before. I don't know how
And
to.
why do you think that men who enjoy their work, enjoy business, enjoy entrepreneurship, enjoy whatever what they love, ultimately doesn't feel like work, and yet we can do it for over, ever, and ever, and amen. And phone
And
call comes.
you're almost criticized for enjoying your work. You're a workaholic.
Well,
You
if
know,
it's a distraction, it's one thing. Or if
there's
there's
no
no
perfect,
balance, it's another.
yeah, there's no, but I'm saying there's, typically you're right because years of orthopedics, you get called in the middle of the night. Of course, you're disrupting your partner. It's 2 a.m. and now you're on the phone with a nurse and all this. But if you have to go in and do something, there is some innate joy in the work that you do. But you come back, and it's not that you've had an opportunity to exercise your skills and provide goodness for the universe. You somehow disrupted her sleep, disrupted the harmony of the bedroom. You know what I mean? So that like that dedication, that work-life balance with guys that are alpha wolves who have to be there, who have to take the call in the middle of the night. They're demonized for being too alpha in this world, I
I
think.
can't, I don't see it, Jack. I'm gonna tell you right now. Here's why. If you have a mildly healthy relationship, your woman's not going to complain about you taking care of people.
I get so it
Yeah,
depends.
but it
No, it
depends.
doesn't. No, it
Well,
doesn't.
I would say, but when it does come in, I've heard something recently, like people always want what you have, but they don't want the road that you had to take to get it. And,
Sure.
in my field, like I said, sometimes I could give you hundreds of experiences where I'm putting my shoes on, I'm putting my shirt on, and then the beeper goes off. We're going out to dinner. It could be an anniversary, it could be a birthday, it could be 1,000 things. When that beeper goes off, I'm out of there. And that becomes resented, I think, over the years when they want what you have, but they don't realize how you got there to get it.
Sure.
Right.
There's work-life balance for sure. And I'm with you on that
So,
one.
so, so,
And
but see, for a doctor, and I'm going to go flat out and say this is for someone like Jack, and when he was in that atmosphere, it's not like most people going out and working.
no, it's not like selling a product or something. No, it's saving a life. It's the same thing. I have the
Yeah, but
suicide
again,
calls.
your
Like,
availability,
but I
like
get the
someone in,
suicide calls. Like I get the ones I'm sitting next to Jack Daniels and a gun right now, and I'm thinking about swallowing this bullet. I get those calls. And
Yeah.
so those will call in the middle of the night. And if I get those calls, like I wake up, I take those calls, and she's like, that's my hero,
Mm.
not you disturb my sleep. My girl's like, I'm proud of my man. You saved another life today. That's my guy. Not, oh, I had to be a little sleepier in the morning because you had to go up and actually kick some fucking ass for God today. And then I had to be disturbed. Which perspective are we talking about here?
But sometimes
mm,
you get in those situations, you know what I mean? Until
you become a
I,
different
I hear you.
person than
You're
when
you're
you
absolutely
began.
right.
Yeah,
That support is necessary, but I think sometimes my opinion, I've got my experience, but my experience
Mhm.
is that my view was 20 years out, whereas other people's views maybe within a day or 2 days, not the long term. I think there's a lot of instant gratification and, the need for, yeah, I want to go to the doctor. I want to go to the doctor gala, the doctor prom at the end of the year, but do I really want to deal with 364 days of phone calls? And, I'm just saying
There's
it
like I
balance.
depends on
said,
the
that's
partner.
the partner
Yeah,
thing.
Rick,
That's
Rick,
the
Rick,
partner
Rick,
thing.
Rick, Rick will flat out say this.
Yeah.
It's about men choosing their right partner.
Yeah, it does make well,
But
or even creating a safe enough environment that we can have a real conversation about it. And this means I can talk to my girl and go, "Hey, sweetheart, listen, I love you and you're a priority to me. But if a person's about to die and I have to choose between you getting an extra 10 minutes of rest or that person losing a family member or a dad or a brother or a son, they have to have funerals for your 10 minutes. I love you, but your 10 minutes is going to lose."
Yeah.
And if you can't understand this, if you're so deep in your own self-worship or selfishness that 10 minutes of your beauty rest is more important than a human's life, I don't think that we're compatible.
Well, that's true, and you figured that out. But what if you did this afterwards, Rick?
It's the same decision. I don't understand.
No, there's not. Because here's the reason why. What if you were in a relationship with somebody and then you totally changed on a dime and had a different career, different situation, different
You,
circumstance, like
You
what you
guys are
did?
doing a lot with like career being identity. There's maybe where I'm missing the connection on this one because my career isn't my identity. It's a thing that I do, but not who I am.
Mm, that's for some people.
Well, this is the point, is a healthy person is going to use something else as their identity. Look at the issue that comes if my identity is my career and then I no longer have that career. Who are you?
but it's often, I'm not trying to argue with you. I find it tremendously
It's
interesting.
gonna. It's a huge
But it's
debate.
like when
It's a
they
huge
fell in
freaking
love,
debate.
they fell in love with the identity, not the
It,
person.
that's funny. What do they fall in love with then? Because that's not love.
Correct.
They fall in love with status. They fall in love with potential. They fall in love with opportunity for themselves. They fall in love with what? Instant gratification. They fall in love with finances. What did they fall in love with? Because that's not
Whatever,
love. It's not
no,
connection. That's not
but
heart. It's not
but
spirit.
I think it happens.
No, it happens,
Yeah,
but
I
don't
think it
call it
happens.
love.
That's the point I was making, Rick. It's the choosing your partner
Yeah,
from that beginning and understanding and educating people on those specific things and standing your ground.
correct.
And look at the downfall of a lot of men, Rick.
Yeah.
That's a question right there. I'll go right now. The downfall of men, for example, today, 2025, June 17th, 2025, the downfall of men.
Is that we chose to.
We
You guys
chose
don't
the
see it?
downfall.
Yes. People can't take power away from you. You have to give it away.
I agree with that.
And so the only way we fall is if we choose to. Men are giving power away, giving it away, and then wondering why they have none. The nice guys who are taught that they are nice are not good men. They are taught to lose always. And then they
So
wonder
so
why they
how
lose
how
always.
can so that's where Jack, let's go back to Dr. Jack because you put this together. And I'm not arguing with Rick because the bottom line is I agree with a lot what you're saying, but the rose colored glasses that are put out there aren't going to happen that way. And it would be interesting if we had Andrew Tate, and which again, I'm not saying anything what your take would be on the Tate brothers, right? Or somebody else in that level of extreme to a level. What would you say if they said that's not true? Because again, everyone has an opinion
That's
at the
okay.
end of the day, and there's not one way, right way or wrong way. It's how we interpret things. But you're so right about a healthy relationship. But at 17, 18, 19, 25 years old, we don't really have the mental capacity sometimes to choose the right mate.
Well, of course. And this is where you have to make some mistakes on here. But again, how many people who are choosing healthy mates have healthy male role models?
True.
None.
The
Like I run into
consequence.
thousands of guys. I teamed up with J.R. Harvey, who's really big on this one too. He's got a 20,000 man group for the Kings community. And so we mixed our groups together because I have a lot of teachers and he has a lot of students and it's reversed. And so we just teamed up to help more guys out. And he's coming from the nice guy circle. These guys are set up to radically fail only. There's no win. There's a big difference between nice guy, bad boy. If you just take the examples of what they have, nice guys have good intention, right? The intentions are good. I want to be good. I want to be good. I want to be good. But their execution is dog shit. Like it doesn't work. They do this fawning and pandering and self-sacrifice and destroy myself and covert contracts and manipulation. And that's why it all falls apart. You got your bad boys who do behavior that's more desirable, but their intentions are wrong. And they're usually selfish or self-serving or cruel or kind of just they aloof or don't give a fuck. And they do shit that's the right behavior, that's attraction, but they do it for the wrong reasons. If you take the good from both sides and take the right behavior, the attractive behavior, and then put the good intentions there, now you have a good man. You have to have a guy who's willing to fight, but fight for the right reason. A guy who's disagreeable, but empathetic. A guy who wants to have your back and do the like for the right reasons, but won't conform or won't convert himself or sacrifice himself for whatever feelings somebody had today. This is where you're watching this dissonance of what is right, who is right. No, it's there. Are you being authentically good? And you can start seeing the moral compass gets really, really loud when we start doing a little bit of challenging everything. I don't care if Andrew Tate's on here or not. There are things he says that make sense and things he says that make no fucking sense at all.
Hmm.
And I'm happy to have the conversation either way.
Yeah. So where do we go from here, Rick? I mean, you've been a fantastic addition to the men's movement and your movement. You speak for yourself, and you know your success and your wisdom is your price. How do people who want to learn more about you, and I certainly do, I've signed up for your membership, and I want to
Oh,
hear more from your other members, and I want to hear that's, you know,
I
we
love
talked
to.
about this before. It's like you want to go fast, go alone. You want to go far, go together. And I think you're working on a fantastic group. You've got great mindset, you've got great principles. How do people get on board with you, Rick?
Here's the thing. That's an interesting thing that you want to go fast, go alone. It's interesting that that's it because I found that healing is 10 times faster together. Like it is, especially when I work with depression. Like I can teach you the correct techniques, but when you're around people who believe in you and love you, it goes faster. Like there's all these elements of together is always stronger, and that's the thing with men, is together is always better. If you take great minds and go, hey, here's the problem, fellas, give us a week. I bet you we got a solution. Like we'll take our experiences and our wisdom and our ideas and our creativity and our resourcefulness. We'll take our network, we'll take all our things, put it together in a room full of our guys, and I bet you we come up with something. Together's always stronger. That's why every morning we do phalanx calls. When it comes to support in the Warriors way, I would challenge anybody to see if you do more support than we do. We have over 30 to 40 calls a week that our guys are able to plug into for support. I teach every single day for our guys, and we have multiple guys who teach throughout the day. And it's very inexpensive for us to do this because we need to help more men find who they really are. Our programs are underpriced by 400% because it's got to be a respectable enough price for the common man to go, it's enough for me to respect it, but not enough for me to go bankrupt. We're doing the right thing for the right reasons, and we're vastly undercharging, not because we're not worth it or we don't understand our value, but because we work for the right source and I do the right thing. It's got to be done the right way. And so together is always stronger. Always. The phalanx is way tougher to beat than any one lone wolf. And the lone wolves, they go hungry. The pack always eats. So together we're always stronger. So that's why I would say you come and train with men because men need men. Hell, I'll even, let me grab one of these Bibles here. Got stacks of Bibles. But if you go even like Proverbs 24, 5, and 6, which says the wise are mightier than the strong. And he talks about before you go into battle, victory depends on having many advisors. And so if you're going to go in and say, hey, me and my wife are arguing, man, or hey, me and my son are disconnecting right now, or damn, I'm having an issue with my boss right now, bounce it off your boys first before you go in there and start making foolish decisions. Before you start going in there and go off
Hey,
the cup, bounce it off your boys.
right. The beautiful thing, Rick, I mean, you bring that network, and that's a lot of the reason for the Ultimate Men's Clinic as well. Is like to have guys feel comfortable going somewhere and talking about healthcare. As a Shriner, anytime I went to an event, the guys are like, "Hey, doc, you know, I went to the doctor. My pancreas is whatever." But it was always nice. We always had that group, and if I needed a car, there's someone to go to. But out in the real world, there's so many guys that are alone. They're by themselves. They don't have a best friend because most things have gone online. But it's what you do is great that it allows a way for people to connect online, but exercise that connectivity to the rest of the world, which is where they need it.
Yes. I think here's an issue. There's a lot of things, man. We teach so much stuff. Um, One of the things is like just guys don't have a creed in their life. They don't have a code. And they don't. And it doesn't have to be the same code as another man's. It's just we don't have like these are the standards in which I hold myself to. Even our warrior creed, I've got 8 rules just for just our group. And there are things like where they're very important, like trust is number one. We do not betray each other in here. We do not gossip. We do not post each other's shit. We don't turn on each other. We don't talk behind each other's backs. If you got something to say, let the guy know. We trust each other here. That's number one. If you break these creeds, like you're just not one of us. That's okay, but you're not here. Number two is no blame, no shame, no judgment. People have done bullshit in their life. You've done radically fucking foolish mistakes. That's how you grow. That's how you learn. That's how you become a better person. So I'm not going to sit here and judge and condemn you. It's my job to help guide you to be good because you learned your lesson from that. Now you're a better man. Number three is authenticity. If you haven't noticed, I'm one of the psychologists that will say fuck, shit, ass, and bitch. I don't give a hell. Like, let's be authentic. Say the words you're going to say. And I just had a guy who came in who was like, "Why, if you are a man of God, do you use profanity?" And I'll put that clip up because at the end of that, he was like, "Fair enough, dude. Like there's a reason for each thing. Be who you really are." Number four is willingness. I reward effort far more than results, and we're in a results-driven world right now. We're in a results-driven world that suppresses humanity to raise up achievement, which is such an oxymoron and or a paradox because I turn my heart off to get approved of. And then when I'm approved of, my heart's not on, so I can't receive it. Duh. We shut ourselves down to try to be achievers, and then we can't actually connect with people when we do. We just go on to the next thing, on to the next thing, on to the next thing. It's so funny. In our group, we are rewarding effort. I don't care what place you got and you got wiped out to just stand back up. That's
Right.
my dude. I
All right.
reward effort over and over again. Then you start going into the skin in the game, and people have to invest in something or they don't respect it. It's just reality. I wish it wasn't there, but it's true. Then you got protect the pack, and we always look out for each other's backs. This goes into your family, this goes into your kids, this goes into your friends. We watch our packs back. We don't attack our pack ever. Then you go into one of my favorite ones, which is challenge everything. You want to know how you're in a cult? You can't challenge the leader. Go to your church, go to your politician group, go to whatever algorithm you're in. If you can't challenge the leader, it's the first thing I tell the guys come in. Challenge me for competency. If I'm incompetent, don't stay.
Okay.
You have to challenge your leader. And then the third one, and this is the big one for the world right now, because everyone's got a fucking opinion, is trained or untrained. Do not give advice that you do not have results for at all.
Okay.
How many of you guys have seen people give medical advice when they've never even gone to medical school? Well, I saw it on on WebMD, so I'm just telling you. I know more than Jack does. And you're like, the fuck? No, you
Got
do
it.
not. Well, I watched the podcast, so I know more than Neil does. You're like, he's done 15,000 of these things. How the hell do you know more than he does?
But it
Like,
is what it is. Everyone's an expert in something. They just have to read it. But I appreciate it or listen to it. So, Rick, best place again?
oh, go to the warriorswaymindset.com. Jump in our Discord for free. Check it out for a while. We've been given free access for a month, but it's really funny. Is $10 is enough to keep the trolls out. So we just put a $10 window on there just to make it so a paywall's there. That's enough to keep the trolls out. It's really funny that $2.49 is enough to knock them out the window.
All
Nice.
It's
right.
very
Well,
funny.
thank
But
you
go to
so
the
much,
Warriors Way
Rick.
Mindset.
I really appreciate you responding and taking your time to be with us today. If you need anything, you come to us. We'll help you with whatever we can with our area of expertise.
Sounds fun, guys.
All right.
Appreciate it.
All right. The ultimate men's clinic.com in New Bedford, Massachusetts. Appreciate it, guys. Thanks again.